programming language. One of the most powerful features of programming language is the ability to manipulate variable. Variables, as we know, they can change in their value. So a variable is a name that refers to a value. That means that thing that we can use to refer to another value. When we store an information into a variable, then the information can be retrieved by calling that variable. So this takes us to the point of variable names, where we can work with different names in storing our data. As you know, a computer receives data from the user and store it in a variable, that's a container for storing data. Then that data can now be processed or manipulated before it is being output to the screen. So let's look at variable names. Programmers generally choose names for their variable that are meaningful. They document what the variable is used for. So if I'm to use a variable to store the name of the person using the server currently, then I will probably use something that is related, that can be easily remembered by me, the programmer, or any other one who is working with the code, and can be traceable to figure out what that variable actually means. For instance, if I'm to save some string, such as and now, for something completely different here, which is in single quotes here, which means this is a string value. If I'm to save this, then this should be a message. I can just say, okay, this should be a message that I'm trying to output to the screen, or to send to a particular user. Or I can also have my variables saved in just a single character, such as n. Then I save it to hold the value 17. And also I can just have pi, just to hold the value of pi. Let's say, for instance, if I'm working with a circle, area of circle, I can just use 2 multiplied by pi r square. Then this pi value, instead of me typing it several times that I need to call the pi, I can just use this variable name to retrieve whatever value that has been stored in this pi variable. So like we already know, like we are already familiar with in the previous video, that Python as a programming language is a formal language, whereas for every structure of the language that you type mean exactly what they say. So we follow some set down rule or guide for us to write our program without making any error. So now, when we're talking about variables, you can name them whatever you want, because it's a container to hold any value that you're trying to store in the computer's memory. So a variable can be as long as you like. They can contain both letter and number, but they have to follow some certain rule, which is a variable cannot begin with a number, and it's just conventional, just not to start with uppercase, so you can use lowercase for your variable names. The underscore character also can be used to join variable names that are long or more than one word, such as if I want to save a variable like your name, that like I have here. If I want to save your name, then the name will be passed in as a string value. Then this your name here, it's two word, comprised of two words. Instead of me using space here, I can't do that, because it's one of the rule of variable not to give space in your variable name. So here I'm having your name while joining these two words with underscore here, or speed of unladen swallow. So it is often used in names with multiple words. If you want to give your variable some name, you have to give it something legal that you can be easily traced, for you to know where what they actually mean. Let's say, for instance, if I have a variable such as big parade, a string such as big parade, then I cannot save it in variables such as 76 trombones, because a variable cannot begin with letter. It cannot begin with number, only letter. Then we can now have numbers preceding, that is after the letters, or in between, because this will return syntax error. It will say invalid syntax. That means you can't name a variable beginning with numbers. And here also I have more than this symbol here. I can't save a variable like this because of this special character. It will also return an error. And there are some words that are known as keyword in programming language. Various programming language have their specific keyword that they use in identifying or giving some instruction to the computer, such as print function in Python that you have seen before. I can't use print because I can't use print as my variable name because it already belongs to something that Python has already installed in my computer, which is used to print out something to the screen. So it will surely return an error. So now let us look at me using class variable here, saying class is equal to advanced theoretical and days, but it will return a syntax error. Why? Because of the variable name that I use. Yes, it followed the rule conventionally, started with lowercase. There is no number beginning and no spacing between this word. So what could actually be the problem? It's it turned out that class is one of Python's keyword, whereas keyword are those things that we use to recognize the structure of program. So they cannot be used as variable name. So having that, let's look at some of the Python keywords that are already available and cannot be used as variable name in our code. We have the keyword false. This is a boolean value, true or false, when you get only true or false when you are trying to test for any condition. Then we also have none when there is no value in an object. We also have true, which is the opposite of false here, and we have and, which is used in concatenating two conditions or several conditions, and we also have as, start, break, class, etc. So these are the keywords that we can find in Python programming which cannot be used as variable names. So we don't necessarily have to memorize this list, because whenever you type it in your code, it should be highlighted and you should be able to identify that this word that you have just used belong to Python's keyword, so you cannot use it in your program to describe something else or to name a variable. So that is about variables in Python. Let's look at variable in our code. Now going to my code editor, I'm in my desktop folder, so I can just activate my Python shell by typing Python. Then this should return the version of Python I'm using and activate my interpreter for me by denoting it with that angle bracket, three angle brackets. So now I'm in my Python interpreter. I can have a variable, let's say my name. This is a name, then I give space, then equal to this name. I'm trying to store a value to my name, to this name variable. This name is going to be the one holding the value that I'm going to be passing to it. So let's say the value I'm trying to pass to it is my name. Then this is a string, my name. Then it will be in the variable name. It is stored in variable name. So whenever I need to type out my name or to query my name, I don't have to type out my name again. I can just use this variable name that I've just named here. Then I can use enter key just to enter, just to move to the next line. But here nothing happened. Yes, because I'm not actually doing anything with this name variable. But if I want to see what is actually in the name variable, I can use the print function, which I can just say name. And now the print function is not going to be taken in quotation mark, because what I'm trying to print is not a name. It's not this name exactly, but I'm only trying to print that variable name that I've stored in my computer memory. So I don't need to use quotation marks here. It's just going to get or look up to whatever is named as name, then it will print that, but it won't print name to the screen because it's not a string actually. It will be printing the value that this name is holding. So by pressing enter, it will return my name. That's amazing. So it means that if I have a variable, the variable is a container that stores other value in it. So whatever I have to the right is known as value, whereas whatever I have to the left is known as the variable name. Now I'm trying to query the variable name by saying print name. Okay, let's say for instance I want to try to debug this. Then I have, okay, print, then in parentheses and in quotes I'm saying print name, close the quote and close parentheses. This should return the string name and not the name that is actually saved in the computer's memory. Now here I'm trying to query the name and not the value that is being stored in this name variable. So that is about Python variable. Here we can also have it to store integer and other data types, but let's stop here, then we'll look at expressions in Python. So when we're talking about expression, it's just like in English or in any language, when you give some expressions like how are you, it means the combination of various values or variable or operator that are working together, that are related and have something to do together. So when we are talking about expression, it's a combination of value variables and operator. A value all by itself is considered an expression, and so is a variable. So the following are all legal expressions, such as if I just type 42, it's a simple expression that I can have in my computer program just to output 42 back to me. And if I should just press n, n here is a variable which was holding the value 17 initially from the illustration I showed earlier. So I'm just trying to query whatever value that n is storing, and here I can also perform any operation on n. N is holding an integer which is 17. Then if I should perform n plus 25, that should return 42, because 17 plus 25 will give 42. Now let's look at that in our code to see what we are trying to do about. So here I'm going to have my n to equal 17. Then I press enter. Nothing seems to happen because there's no error. Then I can just try to check for the value that I have in my n variable, which is what? 17, by typing n and enter. This return 17. But if I try to type y and enter, it will return an error. It says name error, name x is not defined, because you can't find x in the computer memory. X is not holding any value. So here I can just say, okay, let's query my n again to get the value 17, and I just want to perform a simple operation on this by saying n, which is the value that I have, 17, plus 20, that should return 37. So this here perform addition by saying n that I have here, which was holding 17, then adding 20 to it will return 37. So that is for my simple expression that I can have in my program. Now let's go back to what we have here. It says when you type an expression at the prompt, the interpreter evaluates it, which means that it finds the value of the expression. In this example, n has the value 17 and added to 25 as the value 42. So that's what we mean by an expression. Now when we're talking about a statement is a unit of code that has an effect, like creating a variable or displaying a value. Yeah, the statements are used up here to print this name string is known as a statement. This is just a complete statement. It's complete. Here also I have this print just for computational purpose. What I want the interpreter to actually do for me. That's why we say a statement is a unit of code that has an effect, like creating a variable or displaying a value. And as we can see here, we have n is equal to 17, and print n, we should just print out the value 17. As I can do here, I say print n, not print in quotation, but just print n, then it should return 17. This print n here is a statement. So going back to what we have here, it says the first line is an assignment statement that gives a value to n. The second line, which is print n, is the one that is displaying the value of n. So when you type a statement that interpreter executes it, which means that it does whatever the statement say. In general, statements don't have values. So here is a statement because the interpreter does what statement says by doing what? Printing the value of n, which is 17. So that will be all for this. We meet in the next video.